that because we already do pretty well, but nowhere near as well as they do.
That's all right. Every dollar makes a difference.
Yep, that's true.
I've started the recording, so we just need to let everybody know that we are recording this session for ACS CAN. We're giving it a couple more minutes for people to hop on, but this is being recorded. I feel like I need an official PSA to read, Lisa, so
Ooh,
just saying.
You should.
Yes. An
Don't try
official,
switching
you are
teams.
being recorded. Yes. I really didn't, to be honest, for all of the staff and volunteers on the phone, I didn't realize that. I mean, we record a lot of calls and a lot of fundraisers and things like that. And I didn't realize that you were supposed to like kind of give that disclaimer, but you're supposed to give this disclaimer that you're being recorded. And so everyone's aware. And so now we just have to keep remembering to say it. So you're doing a great job, Jessica. Everyone knows you're being recorded. And we're excited to have everybody hop over. For those that were on the previous breakout about fundraising, now you are here with ACS CAN, and we are very pleased to have the amazing Heidi Varner kick us off for this breakout. So I think you go ahead and get started whenever you're ready, Heidi.
All right. Well, Mary Lynn is also joining me. She's my fabulous staff partner, also a good friend. And tonight I am Bill. So we're going to show you a quick little video and then kind of find out what you have to learn, what you want to learn about the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network.
I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill.
Hi, my name is Bill, and I'm here to talk to you about your American Cancer Society Action, or ACS CAN, as some of them like to call it. But really what it is it's an opportunity to join your voice with lots of other relayers around the nation, so you can add your voice and we can get public policy laws made in your states and in Washington. Now, it's important piece you steps waiting to be passed for cancer patients. So for or more year membership, you can join your voice with all of the relayers all over the nation, and you can learn how to become an advocate like all those wonderful other relayers. If you would like more information, please see the slides that will be shown later. Thank you. I hope you join. Bye.
All right. So I'm wearing Bill because that was what in Michigan we're trying really hard to pass oral chemotherapy parity fairness. And so I'm hoping eventually this year this will change to law, and then we'll dance on the Capitol steps in Lansing and be excited. But advocacy is my passion. And so when ACS CAN or the Cancer Action Network came around, it was right up my alley. I'm a cancer survivor. Cervical cancer, it was 1 in 5 who could get the free screenings. When I first started doing advocacy, and then it went up, and now we're back to 1 in 5 women, which to me is a huge step backwards in 20 years. So we fight really hard with your $10 or more, and it's not just relayers, it's any event, strides, the walk and roll, the determination events, your golf outings, your cake-a-thon, anybody can join ACS CAN and have your event, whatever your event looks like, become an ACS CAN Club event, which means you get 40 members. Those 40 members don't have to be a part of your actual event. They can be friends and family or anybody who's willing to share their voice and their stories with legislators. If you get 10 on your team, you get a pin that says you're an ACS CAN Club team. So there's also lots of competitions you can do with advocacy, but most importantly, your voice, your stories make a difference with your elected officials. They want to hear from you. They want to hear your stories. They need to know that every one of your faces is a face that is fighting cancer or a caregiver or someone who has lost someone to cancer. And they need to know when they go to make a vote, which they're all getting ready to work on the budget, that they keep our cancer issues in the forefront. ACS CAN is not a PAC. We don't ever give money to a candidate, or nor do we ever endorse a candidate. We will ask candidates what their positions are, like during presidential elections, and we will put those reports out if they give us those things on our cancer issues. But all of our meetings, all of our emails only deal with cancer through the cancer lens. So this is your opportunity to ask me questions or concerns or things you don't understand. Because I know not every event is aware of how much ACS can also help your event raise more money. So don't be afraid. There's no dumb questions.
Heidi, I know a question a lot of times that I get asked that maybe you would be the perfect person to respond is, how does ACS can benefit an event? How do you be an ACS team or an ACS can event? And registration fees, does that go towards your relay or is it kept separate? How does all that work?
ACS CAN was started 20 years ago because as a nonprofit, the American Cancer Society can only push so many dollars towards lobbying. And they knew that to have the biggest impact on cancer, we had to have grassroots volunteers like all of us who were willing to fight in their state houses and fight in Washington for cancer issues. So it's a $10 yearly membership. It can be more. They also have fundraising levels, just like Relay does. You can get little awards, you can get little things depending on how much money you donate over the year. But most importantly, your $10 is not tax deductible because it is going towards grassroots lobbying. So that $10 does not go credited to your event, but the membership gets credited to your event. So you can get 40 members and you become an ACS CAN Club event. And they like to call those out during the meetings that we have for ACS CAN, that, you know, these events are the first. Colleges are usually the first to get those because they have their events earlier. But yes, it's not hard to do, but your monies are separate. But realize that these two organizations go hand in hand. We cannot do what we do with ACS if we do not have ACS CAN. The two actually are like a bicycle. The two wheels work together to push us forward, to make sure as you're raising money or we're raising money for research, that we are pushing the federal government to up how much they are funding for research, because they are the largest funder. We are the second largest funder of research. So without our voices telling them to push for funding, telling them to push for new research grants, telling them to push for new screenings, telling them to push to cover what people need, working on health equity, all of those things are fought at your local and the federal level. So it is a great way for you to feel empowered and to fight back. For me, it is my favorite way to fight back. Any other questions?
Heidi, what will CAN ask you to do sometimes, and how will their ask come to you?
If you sign up with your email, which is what we would really prefer, you will get action alerts, which will be an email that will come to you and it will say, we're asking you to call your senator, we're asking you to email your representatives, and it'll have everything pre-formatted. So you have to type in your address and your name and all of that, everything that they require for you to contact them. But then the whole message is pre-formatted. We ask that you might change a word or two in the beginning and a word or two, add something in the first paragraph, but you don't have to. And then you send it off and it will figure out by your address who it goes to. So if you can't remember, like, who do I have in Lansing or who do I have in DC? I don't remember. You don't have to. And then you should start getting answers back from them on the things that you contact them on. And as you start to build that relationship and they start to see your face and your name, that's when you can meet with them in person. We can help you guys set that up, or you can do virtual meetings at both levels and get your stories out there and impact them, because they really do want to hear from us. ACS CAN is a very well-respected group, both in your state and at the federal level. They know that we come with science-based asks, facts. We can back up what our ask will do, what it will approximately cost. So we are very respected on both hills. Did that answer it, Mary Lynn?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
What about lobby days?
Lobby days are a great way to get involved. Those are held at every state calls it something different, but it's a day where all of your volunteers and staff either gather together in person. Hopefully we'll start to do more of those, or this year it was virtual again. ACS CAN will prep you with what their asks are per state. Every state has certain initiatives they're working on. Michigan is working on the tobacco tax, and I just saw a report that during this pandemic, smoking has gone back up for the first time in forever, which just breaks my heart. So we're pushing on a tobacco tax, and we're also pushing for oral chemo fairness. So every state will have their own issues. They will have training sessions to help you learn how to ask those questions. They'll have materials for you to leave behind. And it's a great way to start building that relationship. And those meetings are only about the issues that ACS CAN is asking you to talk about. You share your story, you make the ask, and then you just sit quietly and wait for them to become uncomfortable and either say yes or no, or I'll get back to you. So, and we have lots of people. I'm a District 4 lead for Michigan. So we work with a lot of new people coming to ACS CAN and help train them, and we don't ever send them into a meeting alone. You know, we just had a meeting with 2 new volunteers in Gladwin who met with their state representative. Neither one wanted to share their story, and by the end of it, both of them had shared their story. In fact, one made our representative cry with her story. That's the power of your stories. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. There's also a lobby day in DC. So that's where the ACT leads all go, or we did virtual meetings this year. So, and that's where we meet with your federal congressmen and your senators.
I know
Are we
that
still using the one-page registration form?
The what?
Are we still using the one-page registration form to
Yes.
join?
Yes, or if you have an ACT lead, or I mean an advocacy lead for your event, we can work with them to set up a CAN raiser page, which will track your ACS CAN members because they'll join through the link you send them. So you will know how much you've raised and how many members you have. So it's an easy way for whoever is your advocacy lead or mission person to do that. And that was new this year. So if people want to learn how to do that, Mary Lynn, do you want to put my email and my phone number in there, please? Then you can contact me. We can help you get those set up. And it's an easy way for you then as a volunteer to track your memberships. But yes, they could also do the paper form. If you have the fundraising app on your phone, if you go to your personal page and it'll say, do you want to credit it to your event, to you? Or you can also join ACS CAN yourself through your fundraising app. We don't have it yet where you can get other people to join it, but you can join on your fundraising app for yourself, for your event.
We have a
It
question.
looks like you have a question from Michelle and Mary.
Okay.
Yeah, in previous years, ACS CAN used to have a great presence at our events, whether it was Strides or Relay for Life. As a matter of fact, our staff partner used to insist that they do a presentation from the stage, have visibility around the track and the whole bit.
She's speaking of New York.
I'm speaking New York and Las Vegas. But I noticed that over the years that presence by ACS CAN has diminished a little bit. Has the dollars gone down that have been donated to ACS CAN?
No. No. Did you have paid ACS CAN staff? Because most events try to use either people like me, an ACT lead, or someone who's very knowledgeable about ACS CAN and have them come to your event and do the speaking.
We used to have actually both, and also the representative that we might have been trying to lobby that year.
Okay, because a lot of times your ACS CAN staff right now are not going to be going to your events. They cover way too many areas. So we can help you work with somebody within your state, work within your ACT leads, whatever congressional district you're in, and see if we can find somebody who's close to you that can come to those events. But absolutely, we need to work on getting someone to come speak to your event and get people to understand how to use their voice, to join ACS CAN, to answer the action alerts. I just did our local Strides with 3 other volunteers, and because we couldn't use any paper forms, I made sandwich boards. And so we had our link to join ACS CAN on the front, and on the back it said it had a number to text to sign the breast cervical cancer petition. So I would be happy to work with you too if you want to get my information and And we can
Yes.
figure out who you can talk to for your Strides events, because you really do need to have that advocacy at your events.
And we had Strides last weekend and Relay event last month. And there was no representation there at all. As a matter of fact, ACS had no presence at either one of those events. So I was wondering if things have changed a little bit.
Well, it's really up to the volunteers. You know, we're all volunteer
Right?
driven and staff supported, and that's even more so going forward. That's even as advocacy, that is, you know, we are building our ranks to make sure we have enough ambassadors in each section of our counties so that we can get people to these events to speak.
Yes,
So-
yes, we welcome that, and I have your information here. I'll give it to my mom.
Okay.
And I thank you. Yes, we lost our representatives. That's the problem.
Yep. So let's talk and we'll get you back on board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
no, thank you. Great question. Anybody else?
I didn't know if
I'll
it'd be
just add to
helpful
that
bring
too,
up-
Heidi, that there is some great trainings if you have a volunteer that's interested, especially if you have a college in your area, people that are involved in young politics that are interested in being the advocacy chair for your event or for, you know, multiple events in your area. ACS CAN provides the training. People like Heidi and staff do the virtual trainings just like we do with all the different relay positions and Strides positions. And we also are able to order you all, you'll find out in the resources, but just like Heidi mentioned, if you need registration forms, if you need ACS CAN themed giveaways, we can make sure that your events have those so you can set up an area at your event with a volunteer to hand those out to.
Right. If you go to the fightcancer.org, there's a spot where you can actually look at by state. You can look at your home state and see what initiatives are going on there. So there's a lot of information on fightcancer.org, but a lot of it can be confusing. So use me as a resource and we'll get you going in the way you need to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who else? Great questions.
I didn't know if it would be something you want to bring up about Lights of Hope. That's always a good way to get people to register and also a good fundraising event for you.
Yes. The Lights of Hope was actually stolen from Relay for Life.
Yes.
So they're a white luminaria bag. They're smaller and they have Lights of Hope on them. But it was an idea because ACS CAN realized how successful luminaria sales were. So when it started, at least in Michigan, we pushed really hard when I started selling them to make sure we didn't sell them during peak relay time because we didn't want to compete because that gets confusing. A Lights of Hope is not your event luminaria. But you can join ACS CAN by buying the Lights of Hope, and your ACT leads or ambassadors can all be selling those. And that $10 goes into ACS CAN. And a lot of times they use that money, like if there's a big campaign going on in another state, they will push that money just like we push ACS research dollars to where the research facilities are. They will push those towards big campaigns where we think we really need to make an impact and get people out to vote. We don't endorse candidates. We don't ever talk about voting. When we have people come to the events, we need to make very sure that there's no campaigning slogans. They aren't campaigning. They're just coming to check out the event. But yes, Lights of Hope, it's a very impactful way, just like Luminaria are. We all held them locally this year. We did ours this year in front of our local minor league baseball stadium. And we actually had more people come and see them this year. And we also then had information about relay events in the area. You know, we don't always just push ACS CAN. The two actually go hand in hand. So when people think they're going to lose money by buying a Lights of Hope, actually, the more you get people involved in all of these, the more invested they become in ACS and in ACS CAN, and everybody benefits. What else?
I feel like I'm bringing up questions, but I'm going through stuff that people have reached out and asked us, and so much has changed. But since we have so many people that are event focused on this, is there anything that we do need to be careful with when we're planning events, keeping ACS CAN and our policies in mind? You know, like you've mentioned, not allowing people can't wear vote for me buttons or slogans or donations from politicians. Is there anything that we need to be careful when we're planning our events to make sure that we don't do anything to jeopardize the ACS CAN standing?
Yes, and actually, your grassroots managers, which they're getting spread out thin, but your ACT leads or whoever is, your advocacy lead, we will put them in touch with their state's ACS CAN person, and they have speaking points. So if you're doing an event and you want speaking points for politicians who might be coming, or speaking points if you're trying to do something with your mayor, do some kind of a proclamation, just like with ACS, ACS CAN is very good at getting you what you need so that we stay within the guidelines. We don't misrepresent. ACS CAN, because we all are, as much as we would like our staff to do it, it is us. We are the face of ACS and ACS CAN in our communities. And so the people in your communities look to you to be trustworthy, to know what you're talking about. If you don't, it's okay to say, I'm not really sure, let me get back to you. But yes, we need to make sure that you're in touch with your grassroots managers about what the best speaking points are, what we should or shouldn't do. Does that answer it?
Yes, I just remember it could be very careful, because sometimes if those guidelines are crossed, we could get in a lot of trouble, and it could really jeopardize the standing of ACS CAN in general. So
yes,
thank you.
So you need to remember, we are never campaigning. You don't ever bring up your own personal politics. That's between you and how you vote. When you meet with a representative or a senator, you don't ever say, I didn't vote for you, I voted for you, none of that. We are only there representing ACS CAN as a constituent, and we want them to pay attention to only cancer issues. That's all we ever talk about. If you want to speak to your legislator about another issue, then you would schedule a separate meeting on your own to do that. So when we meet, it's only about cancer issues. That's it. And it shouldn't be scary.
Yeah. Isn't it good to have a story?
Yes, everybody should have a story. There's a reason you are all on these trainings. Everybody has a reason, and your story is just as impactful as the next. So don't think my story isn't important. Every story, every reason that brings you to an ACS CAN event, that brings you to a Relay for Life event, to a Strides event, to walking tracks at other events, to participating in whatever event your community is putting on, your cancer story, whatever that may be. And if you need help practicing that, we have lots of people who can help you practice those stories so that you feel comfortable. But remember, your legislator is more worried about this meeting than you should be, because they work for you. So you need to remember that you're a voter, and you want them to vote whatever the cancer issue is. You would like their support. So they work for you. It might not always meet with your actual legislator. If you meet with their staff, if you meet with their legislative aide, sometimes that's even better, because that is the person who funnels all that information and is always in the ear of your legislator. So if you don't meet with your exact legislator, that's okay. Don't think it was a waste of time. Build those relationships with everybody in their office, and keep telling your story, and keep showing up, and keep emailing, reminding them that you're around. If you see, like, we all thank them for our legislative meetings. We all sent thank yous and thank you emails so that they know we appreciate them taking time to meet with us. But we also know it's their job to meet with us. So we're always very respectful, always kind. Yeah, don't be afraid. And if you're afraid, then reach out. We can help you walk through that. There's no right or wrong way to tell your story.
And if you don't have a story and have time, get a hold of Heidi and let Heidi share her story. It's pretty impactful, similar to what we heard last evening in our opening. Heidi's story and where her travels have taken her in her journey, and how important it was for the work she does now for others.
Okay, now you're making me cry. Stop it.
Well, I sat and watched you at a round table share your story. You know, how you had to use our services before you began working.
Yep. Saved my life. It saved my life. I would not be here. I would not be a mom for 3 girls, and I would not be a grandparent. So I thank you all for sharing your stories and for joining ACS CAN, because without the breast and cervical control program, I wouldn't be here. So to me, it's very important that I give back that way. So I am happy to talk with any of you and share my story. Anything else before we go on to the next one so we don't miss our next one?
Very last serious question. How do we get an amazing outfit like the Bill? Do we just make it, or can
I
you
did
give us
make
the
it. You know what it
pattern?
is? It's the foam mattress pad that my local store donated.
I love it.
Don't jump in a pool though, because I did that last year with our Lights of Hope. Said I was going to jump in, and
She will make them for a donation.
That's right. Yeah. But they get really wet and soggy. I was lucky I could get out of my pool in front of my granddaughter. I'm lucky I didn't drown last year. So yeah, be creative. We started this because we were pushing so hard for oral chemo. And we all thought, oh, what can we do? What can we do? And I'm up for anything. So we're hoping I get to go on the steps of the Capitol. You can't go in the Capitol in costume, but we're hoping I can kind of, when we get ready for the hearings, kind of march around at the Capitol. And so thank you all. I appreciate your time. I hope I answered some questions, and I'll see you in the next session.
Thank you,
You're the
friend.
best,
I love
Heidi.
you.
Thank you, Heidi. You're the best.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
Thank you to everybody for hopping on. Hope to see you on the next breakout.